Hey guys, welcome back to Combustion Junction and the CM400T CafeRacer project, and today we're going to finish up all the wiring. Alright, so where we left off before, I had gotten the main changes to the main harness done. I've backrouted some of the connectors that used to be in the headlight to go under the tank. I've separated out the loom wherever it needs to go. Yeah, that's where we left off. And that was probably the biggest of the jobs. Today, I want to get the headlight wired up. I want to get the tail light wired up, at least ready for install. The tail light is the tiny little LED one that just has a sticker on the back, so I'm not going to install it until paint is finalized, but I am going to do a removable harness for it, and that way I can test all the wiring. So let's get set up. First thing I'm going to do is just test everything out with test lights and just make sure all my circuits are good and everything is behaving the way it behaves. Test out all the lighting on my new Speedo and just see if there's any anomalies that might pop up. All my connectors are now plugged in, ready to go. Batteries in. So right now I've got two test lights, and they're basically going to be headlight, tail light, left signal, right signal, front signal, back signal, and whatever else other configuration I can do without having to mess with LEDs right away. First, I just want to make sure the bike basically has its own function. So let's set up on the headlight first and check high beam, low beam, turn signals, horn, and yeah, that's it. Okay, so on the front harness, when I was originally wiring it up, I thought these were just extra left and right turn signal wires. They're actually, they have it's orange and blue, but they have white stripes. And what I think these are running lights. So these I'm just going to leave out for now and see if I want to implement them at some other time. It's good to know they're here, but we'll see what I can do with those later. So basically what I have is my left and right turn signals coming from the harness. The third one is the ground, which I've connected up to the headlight harness, and then on the headlight plug I have white, which I believe is low beam, blue, which I believe is high beam. I've also got the blue connector here that runs up to the Speedo cluster, and that's hooked up, and that's as much as there is to plug in the front of the bike. So let's start left and right turn signals. Key on, so I get an immediate light up on the cluster and I get my neutral light. Second gear, neutral. So that's great. Low beam, high beam, high beam. The switch I think is a little dirty. It seems a little. And signals. The beeping is a newer signal flasher I put on there. I actually ordered it because it's dual 6 and 12 volt. I didn't actually realize that it was gonna beep. I guess like the electric scooters and stuff use that. Anyway, for now, I will live with it. Left. So great. Everything is working nicely on that. Let's do that one on low, that one on high. High beam, low beam, high beam, low beam, high beam. Perfect. Let's go to the back end. We'll start with our turn signals again. One on the blue, one on the orange. Key on. That is right. You can see that. Oh, and this might be my tester because it's often been flaky. Let's just use this one. Yeah. And that is left. Brown, I believe, is the running light. So it's on right now. Key off. Last two wires I have here are green with the yellow stripe, and green, I believe green is the ground, and the green with the yellow stripe. I believe I saw that coming out of my brake light switch down here. So key back on, and then I'll pull on the little brake light trigger. The other thing I want to do is short out the front brake. So I'm just going to short out the two terminals right here off camera on the front, and it works as well. Last thing I forgot to check was the horn. So I've got it on the 2 terminals. Key on, horn. Not getting anything for the horn. So it looks like my button is being a little, right? So I've got hot going to my horn, and the ground signal is not. So we're gonna have to investigate what's up with that. Yeah, so all in all the extra electronic bits seem to be good. High and low beam have response, the switch and power, everything works. Left and right, front and back turn signals. My tail running light and my brake light are all good. The only thing I don't have is the horn. I have a positive voltage to one side, but it's not grounding out on the other with the push of the button. So either my button is broken or dirty, or there's a connection somewhere lost that I cut and haven't restored. Only other thing to check is the starter. Cool. Okay, so the last test I want to do is the oil pressure sender. I believe what happens is that the sender is grounded, the light gets a permanent positive, and then the wire from the sender is grounded. And if oil pressure is reached, it lifts the ground, and that's what turns the oil light off. I've got my tester. I'm putting one end on the battery, so anywhere I touch ground, it should light up. So this is my sender wire, which comes off my oil cooler. I have it plugged in to that blue wire, which goes to the headlight bucket, which basically goes nowhere because I don't have an oil light at this point. So if I pull that and I touch this lead, yes, it lights up. So ideally, if I crank it right now and it gets enough oil pressure, this light should go out. See? Yes. Okay. That gives me some comfort. So let me show you what I'm using for my tail lights. I'm sure you've seen these. They're those little sticky LED strips. The center is a running light and a brake light, and the sides are turn signals. And it just has cut wires at the end. I found the original cut loom, the original tail light. So it has all the nice bullet connectors on. So basically what I'm gonna do is put those together. So this light has a little bit extra wire, but basically bullet connectors, and then I can test the LED function of it, but not have to permanently install it on the bike, and I can unplug it and plug it as I see fit until it's ready to go permanently. The front, basically each element, so there's the headlight and the 2 turn signals on the side. If you look at the back, I've got black, red, and yellow for the headlight. I'm assuming black is ground and red and yellow are low beam, high beam. Black, red, and yellow on the side ones. I have a feeling that black is ground, one of these is power, and the other is signal. No, that doesn't make sense. Perhaps one is the running light and one is signal. I'm gonna have to, let me look up the wiring diagram and I will get back to you. Okay, so checked the online vendor from where I bought these and the wiring diagram, and of course the wiring in the diagram doesn't match. That has universal wiring with green as a ground, white as a low beam, blue as a high beam. So I'm left to just play. Okay, so I basically spent about a half an hour troubleshooting all the wiring for this headlight. I actually had two headlights. One had a different color code than the other one, and I was sort of making some progress, but I couldn't get anything on the headlight lid, and anyway, it was like the headlight plug, the stock headlight plug, I was going to have to snip and put on bullet ends on it so that I could get everything hooked up. And then I was looking at the headlight, and then I realized that so there was like a rubber cover on the end with the wires sticking out, and as soon as I pulled the rubber cover off, it has the generic headlight plug on it. So I basically plugged it in, turned the key on. I have low beam, I have a high beam, I have signals, if you can catch that, and I have signals the other way. And there it is. Basically, I've opened up the handlebar control for the horn, and it's kind of hard to see in there, but there's basically two wires. There's the green ground wire, which goes to sort of the chassis of the horn, which if I touch that directly, I do get light, and if I can take it right to where it attaches to the horn, that's not touching anything else, and I'm getting so a good solid ground on that. And then that light green wire is the output of the horn. So if I put my probe on that and hit the horn, I don't get anything at all. But definitely the problem is right in the horn button itself. Hopefully it's just dirty connections. So let's just clean everything up, and hopefully that solves it. And there it is. So my front wiring is all done. Now I'm gonna set up a soldering station and put the stock connector onto the new tail light and turn signals integrated, and then we'll plug that in and see if that's all good. Bullet connectors are all plugged into the stock harness. If I turn the key on, I get my running lights, if you can see that. I pull on the brake, I get brakes. I turn on the signals, right and left, well, respectively, however you want to look at it.
So I know I've said it a few times in the past couple of minutes, but this one is actually the most crucial test. Okay, so hopefully that all made sense. I'm really happy that the electrical's done and everything completely works on it, including the spark. Gives me great confidence coming up now that I can get the bike going without having to troubleshoot the electrical part of it. Next couple videos, I'm definitely going to deal with the subframe, getting it cleaned up, getting some paint on there, getting that a little bit more finished looking, getting the seat mounted finally, and then dealing with the carbs. Last piece of the engine starting puzzle. I've got the electrical done, I've got the mufflers done. Everything else is kind of falling into place, but I've got some research to do on carbs because I'm changing the intake filters. I've obviously changed the exhaust. There's going to be all kinds of balance issues and tuning issues I'm going to run into. So stay tuned for that. If you're digging this, please hit subscribe. Give me a like if you feel inclined to do so. Leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear from you, and we will talk to you next time, guys. Cheers.